In this section, I'm going to talk about how markets spontaneously emerge from individuals trying to exchange with each other in order to better their lives. So we'll look at a real-world example of these developing from nothing. It'll be the economic organization of POW camps. There's an economist back in World War II, R.A. Radford, who spent much of the war in an Axis prison camp. And he wrote a paper afterwards describing how market institutions developed. Now, market institutions, and what he gleaned from this experience, is that they're universal and they're spontaneous. So these were formed as a result for immediate needs, and not designed top-down by an organization or an individual trying to create it, but from all the individuals themselves, trying to make themselves better off. There's a particular quote from Radford early on in the piece that I think sets up his explanation very well. He said, "Through the prisoner's economic activity, the exchange of goods and services, his standard of material comfort is considerably enhanced." And this is important to remember, that these individuals are engaging in exchange voluntarily, and they do so to make themselves better off. Now, in these POW camps, they were given certain rations of food, cigarettes, clothing, things like that. And based off of what they liked or what they didn't like, they were able to trade with one another to make themselves better off. But by making themselves better off, because this was mutually agreed upon, these exchanges, both sides were made better off by the exchange. Now, originally, trades began as barter, so trading food for food or food for cigarettes, things like that. And this was randomly occurring between individuals. It was just when you found someone who had too much of something or who needed something and you were able to fulfill that need, they could trade with each other. But over time, markets developed so that cigarettes became the de facto currency of the camp, that all the prices were listed as in terms of cigarettes for all the goods you had. So what began as non-smokers exchanging cigarettes for a chocolate ration, initially because, if you don't smoke, you don't really need it, so you can trade it for something else. It actually developed into the currency. And over time, prices developed. So there's a quote in the paper: "It was realized that a tin of jam was worth 1 pound of margarine plus something else. That a cigarette issue was worth several chocolate issues." So over time, as people would trade with each other and they could see how much people value these things, how much you needed to trade, prices slowly developed and actually converged on an equilibrium price. Now, by the time he originally started out in a satellite camp and they were moved to a main, more permanent camp. When they got to the more permanent camp, all the prices were set in cigarettes by then. And they had well-developed markets by the time Radford got there. In each bungalow or each area where the prisoners would sleep, there were notice boards hung up that had goods offered or goods that people wanted and prices listed. So prices had clearly developed just from individuals trading over time, not from someone top-down deciding what the price was going to be. What's important to note about how these markets developed is that they came into existence from spontaneous organization from these individuals. And the resources were given to individuals by the Red Cross. They were given to all the prisoners in the POW camp. They weren't being produced by the prisoners. And this is irreconcilable with the labor theory of value, something we talked about a long time ago back at the beginning of class, that the value of a good is determined by how much labor cost goes into producing it. In this case, the labor cost of producing these goods within the prison camp economy was zero, yet they still had a value with each other because it was based off of that subjective value, what each individual considers each product to be worth. There's no capitalists or bourgeois to exploit the working class like you see in Marxist literature. In fact, we had a bunch of small individuals just trading with each other. There was even a small labor market for individuals who were willing to perform services for others for a price. There were also entrepreneurs that existed. There was one coffee shop that the individual set up with a loan that they repaid back to people over time. The coffee shop hired a bunch of employees, including at one point an accountant, to brew the coffee, to serve it, to clean the dishes, to do all that stuff, to provide a nice little cafe-like area. There's also some Hindus that were in the camp. Now, not very many people spoke the language that those prisoners spoke, but a few people did. In that camp, they didn't eat meat, or they didn't eat some sort of beef or pork because of their religious beliefs. So the price for that was very low within their group. Once, I believe it was some British prisoners who knew how to speak their language, once they were able to enter that market and begin trading with them, they could trade for beef or pork at very low prices. That brought the price down in between them. The price for beef and pork was high for like the British and the Americans and the French, very low for the Hindus. Once those two markets began trading with each other, the price in the Hindu camp increased, and the price in the American, the French, the British decreased. So we see the prices moving towards equilibrium once the markets open up.